Howdy, my friends, families, and enemies. I made it 48 years in the mid hell of nowhere. "48 years and in the middle of nowhere." Now, I spent my special day in a town I've never been to before. And, you know, this video is about the unfamiliar. This video is about the concept I probably first heard of when I got into Carlos Castaneda 32 years ago. And so I'm going to play this one again because it's really not this, no, that's the parasite trying to play me. Yeah. That's why I'm kind of glad I'm not sponsored at this point. But, anyways, so if you can get lost physically or travel to where you're unfamiliar, it's a great way to get in touch with the real. If you want that to go closer, here they go, trying to prevent me from turning up the volume again, like the masterful parasites that they truly are. That the Archons are just so good at blocking, at disturbing, and making sure that it won't work, and making sure that whatever you're trying to do has to be impossible, because that's their skill. That's their talent. They get in technology. They go in your technology and say, okay, now we're not going to let it work. So, as a youngster, I never thought I could take it this long here. Of course, I'd go in the good young and gone pattern, the good old 27 club. But right there on my astrocartographical, I said it right the first time, see? The Archon wants to insinuate I do things wrong even when I don't. Just like anyone else, until I fully clean it out, I'm gonna have to take myself less seriously unless I get hell all the way out. And so, but then you see, September 1st, 2021, I broke 15 bones and then I got lucky they took me over the hill to the Santa Clara Valley Trauma Center. And those, it was like a doctor TV show. These three young doctors, a handsome 30-year-old Jewish man, a very good-looking 30-year-old African American woman MD, and a very good-looking Asian American woman MD came in with the green vest. They put me through the tube, and then the brain surgeon came in and said, "Sir, you're very lucky. You don't need my services." I said, "You're right," because my head hit the ground. They said it didn't cause a major concussion, so I broke the 15 bones, and then they brought me back to existence. Just like, I mean, just think about this, the mythological story of Chiron or Chiron is like he's cursed to be alive. He's forced to stay alive and immortal in the centaur body, even though he knows he's an eternal essence. He doesn't want to stay here, and he gets forced to remain eternal in the flesh, in a wounded flesh suit. I'm like, it's like the fucking Frog Prince story for me as a kid. It's like, this is way too fucking close. Because I know if I kissed a certain person, it opens the queendom or the kingdom within, So when they took me over the hill in the ER, and then they shot me up with morphine, so I wasn't feeling the pain. So as soon as they got me there, this little Asian female and about 25-year-old nurse was about to shove this in my nose. I was a vaccine activist. I said, if you shove that up my nose, I'm going to pull all these wires out. I had no idea I would have died if I did that. So then she said, okay, you can do it yourself. And so you can do it right on the side. And so from the research I've done, there's a very strong possibility that they got me to swab a PCR clone tech, because it has DARPA hydrogel in that ER, in the ER room, that when they got me in, they made everyone do it. So it's either that or I would die. But you see, how did they get the monopoly on this kind of service? So anyway, I fantasized about this while I was in there. What would an organic hospital be like? Because Rockefeller was choosing my food and my drugs for 5 days, and of course it wasn't organic, and I actually got constipated. I couldn't make a bowel movement for the first time, even though I'm not sure if I got rid of all my benign cancers down there, and there's little spots here and there, but I stayed regular for years and years and years, due to my almost, maybe just the nail in the coffin, as I say, is procrastination, that I haven't gotten a degree in nutrition. And my experience with YouTube shows me that certification makes people take you way more seriously, of course, and all of that. So I I've healed this flesh suit using nutrition and natural means so many times, but it did it. It's a matter of knowing what to do and then getting out of the way, as a lot of things, So, but you see, like the Chiron myth, there I learned I cannot die, at least until I live out my blueprint here. I mean, I played music. I learned how to make dinner money, busking, playing music, and but I didn't actually fully live out my dream as a healer, as someone here who's here to help serve the awakening, and which is, whether or not of course they wiped all my memories, but as my previous video, Memory Wipe Flaw, says, the advantage to us is that they, of course, didn't do it 100%. You know what I mean? So that some things such as talents or attributes can be carried, or something that you learned, that your soul deeply learned. It's like it's not 100% technology, because the intent, of course, as I've said before, because of the filthy intent. Just like the reason why I'm not being able to turn up the volume now, because the filthy intent of control. And as soon as I said that, it works, interestingly enough. So, what does that tell you? They don't want to be known, they don't want to be seen. So, so like the myth there, I learned that I cannot die until I do whatever it is I'm here to do, man. You know, like, so part of my existence in this etherically hijacked, suffering, planetary factory of the dead, burying the dead, is that there is no death. And that's the thing they really don't want you to know, but it's obvious to the true creator, the true essence of your soul, or your spirit essence, or the true creator that moves, the prime mover, the original Christ Sophia, which chose to differentiate as a spark or essence that became you. Yeah, it chose, and then there was Yaldabaoth and all that. But the original, the Anthropos, where Christ Sophia had another male eon, according to John Lamb Lash, to create humans, who gave us free will before these Anunnaki gods got here. To gave us free will and dominion over our flesh suits, our own sovereignty, our own body, the wild, divine, ecstatic way. And yeah, and then I don't know when the blood drinking was programmed, or the forcing of us to consume cholesterol to be healthy was programmed in there by Loser 4, but you know, somewhere in there. So how is there any life in a hell realm loosh farm? As Joshua's description states, I am starving the parasites, right? So perhaps we all have to do this psychically. I mean, it's not really an option. If you want to be healthy in this, whatever, snow globe or whatever it is, this place we're sitting on, you really have to, at least to some level, disidentify with the mind parasites, the Wetiko. Allow yourself to realize the Archon or psychic filth, or just like imposter kings who took over in the physical, they're the overlords of them. You know, they're the overlords of people so high on the scale of NPD that they become NPEs, become totally controlled by the false self. The false self has no respect for life at all, and it's a vampire. The real self is very kind, very expansive, and she, the part of her that's within you, is in love with learning, awareness, healing, sharing, having fun, if it's harmless, etc. Perhaps we all have to do this type of cleansing physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and within the essence, if we want to be healthy as human spirits in these flesh suits. It's very difficult. I know, very often really difficult. For false self-concepts, beliefs, mistaken identities of littleness, the internal psychological acceptance of atomized, solipsistic survival beast mode is not the real original human nature, or which was to have community, to work together, to agree, to be very open about their feelings, and there was no racism or sexism or any of that sort of psychic trash and filth. But this is the alien imposed mind, okay? This is the predator's mind. This is the flyer's mind. Existence in a psychic meat grinder. Isn't it fun to be a modern human with an unexamined mind? No, it's not at all fun. It's horrific. But the more you can become first aware and then friends with your thoughts, your mind, your actions, your deeds, and the way that you interact with your own essence in the world in a less derogatory fashion, then you become more real within the actual part. And so then you remember the creator all the time. You don't want to fool around harming anyone. And so all of these concepts, feed out of all the concepts leading to solipsism feed the Archon parasites. At one point after his initial success, Don Juan told Carlos Castaneda to check into the cheapest motel in the ghetto of LA and observe life. Here, I've actually checked into the most inexpensive room I could find in all of the state of California, here in Bakersfield. This is my first visit after over 20 years around that beautiful and psychically cruel, often county, or financially cruel county called Santa Cruz. That warm, hot and cold-hearted, cold water paradise. I've decided to spend a strong here and check it out. And man, I wish I'd have researched more, man. Like, because I like it hot. I figured I could get some sun, but I didn't know that this region goes from its 100-degree summers baking in the desert to this often constant, I would say definitely sprayed, cold winter bog that, I have to wear a big hoodie and I got a big jacket and just really bundle up to go out there because it's pretty cold all day with this when it's this season, and it's definitely sprayed to be, the nucleated ice, but but it seems to be somewhat of an organic. If you think smog from vehicles is organic, I guess. This often constant sprayed cold winter bog that just blankets the California Central Joaquin Valley, and like I'm in London, filthy, for monks and ugh. I don't know why I wrote that. But it fits because I'm playing this, right? So I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna figure out how to use this volume at some point. I will. Some point the demon will let me do it. I don't know when. I mean, oh, okay. Thank you. And so I guess I'll have to purchase an infrared light if I want to stay here for the next 6 days and get my medicine this week. I mean, so what did I discover so far on this trip, and what have I learned in my exactly 48 years and 12 hours? Well, I wrote this. It was exactly 48 years stuck in this meat sack in the mid-L of nowhere. How is it gonna be different here in a maybe uglier city, or at least it's nothing but farms and factories and farms out here, and I'm out in the sticks, where not everyone is a lonely psycho, or more likely a fully obedient and compliant high wage box slave. Somebody who's like making $1 million a year to survive. As the last, and that's not exaggerating, as the last person to get on the Amtrak in Modesto, it seemed there was no place to sit. So I looked until I found a tabled spot with only a bag. Someone left their bag on one. It was like 4 places to sit with a table, and the rest of the whole train was pretty much packed by the time I handed my bicycle up to the guy. Luckily, they didn't demand or want any money for it or a tag. But I didn't know. They all have different policies on different routes, so you got to check. Soon, the man who left the main the man who left the clothes sat down, or his bag, sat down and joined me. All right, when he sat down, I said, "You don't mind?" He smiled, and somewhere in the first communication, I noticed that I mentioned this channel and some truths, and quickly I noticed he's very aware of many facets of the experiment, and a lot about that, and what I began talking about. Usually, I never volunteer the bloody red pill information on a public place, like such as the Amtrak train. Well, soon, I was soon I was having an expansive, awakening, reciprocal conversation, and you know, and these guys were the guy that was sitting at the table with me. For the most, was definitely interested in what I was saying. Up to and leading into the subject of ETs and geoengineering and all of this kind of thing, and but it was reciprocal. And in Santa Cruz, man, this only happened at the Santa Cruz voluntary meetings or Brave and Free Santa Cruz, maybe even less there because it was more structured. So, or unless you go to wait till the end of the group, the circle in the end, and so yeah. So before I even got to the city I'm in now, I was already having these expansive conversations with people that I would hang out with that are cool. Although two of them were drinking, so I don't like to be around that. But they were Latin guys that were they were still respectful even with that, and they were interested in what I was saying about the red pill and consciousness and awakening. And even though they were hammered, I mean they weren't as interested in it as my new friend, and so a few of them were pretty open to the actual truth. I was slightly amazed just from being in Santa Cruz all these years in a place where that's not the normal thing, that people would be open to talking about any of that in the socialistic blue West Coast, just so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to spend this day here, because I would like to be around see what it's like in a different part of the region. I'm doing that part of my shadow work to reclaim my Sagittarius aspects. I love to visit new places now, and so of course after I came back there from eating dinner, and I just went to the dining car, and it was nice, and the table number 15, and there was no one in there, and then I ate, and then I went back in there, and so so of course when I got back, they were speaking of more three-dimensional kind of things, and but David, however, had no qualms or even appreciated it if I steered the dialogue or the conversation back to my passions of the truth. So as I tried to figure out how I'd get almost 8 miles from the Bakersfield Amtrak station to this motel room I reserved out here in the sticks of the farmlands with no digital money for Lyft. It's dark. It would be like 11 or 10 at night when I got here, and it's a little bit too heavy, too much stuff to carry at that hour, and just the fake cold, pretty cold. And so I figured I'd call a cab, and I tried to do like with no digital money. Yeah, I tried to call a cab. Well, my new friend offered, and he called his friend to get a ride home for himself, and asked the man to take me. So they took me to this here motel room first, and so then as there was no city buses running that late on a Sunday night, I got the best deal possible. I had $9, less than half of what it would have cost Uber, so I offered him that, and Lyft or taxi would have been, like 3 times that at least. And even better than that, I'd made friends with a real and souled human local here before I even checked in this room, before I even got to the city. The same thing happened to me the last Amtrak trip to Tucson, my first visit there. So yeah, if Ophiuchus doesn't exist, or from that standpoint, I'm a triple Sagittarius, double Pisces, and the the travel angels definitely protect me to bring me awesome adventures when I go new places, and I'm so happy to just reclaim a little bit of that, you know, part of myself, and so my real actual. So before I even got off the train, while I was being my real self, when I act like my real self in many, many cities and towns and counties, but particularly Santa Cruz or Charleston. Well, Charleston people would smile and say, "God bless you" or "Bless your heart." But in Santa Cruz, they try to pretend like I'm not there. Most of them would. So, but these people liked it. I was surrounded on all sides by men my age, and the man who got the ride was older, and they all were enjoying the awakening conversation, and that was just really cool. I was like, all right, man, thank you, Amtrak. Thank you to my friends here. So, this like, man, this kind of like was an unprecedented development in my mind. I'm like, what? For this wounded mind body at this stage? Wow. This brings up a very important idea for me. Traveling can really expand your mind. I mean, like, literally, not just with your views and loosey situations when you get stuck in a fucking rut in your mind, your habits, your routines. We even discussed that and how travel helps to heal that. That you can overcome by moving around more. So I took the number, on the other hand, I took the number 17 bus from Santa Cruz with this, maybe he's bi or whatever, but he's very, very effeminate dad with big muscles, and he's always really nice. And he charged me the senior discount, but then an accident happened. So for the first 30 minutes, I was just being quiet and calm and kind of praying to the elements and giving thanks and just imagining that I was going to move through. But then after, I just realized I was getting drained. I was getting loosed. I was getting deeply loose, bad. Because the problem is, I stupidly, and I'm not going to do this again, I didn't put insurance on the price line for this room. So I was about to lose this almost $300 for this cheapest motel room in all of California, but it's still, I didn't want to lose it. It was just offensive to my ego, and I knew that the archons and the devil were just loosing me. And then finally I started blurting out, somebody's got to punish the devil. Who's going to punish the devil? And I actually cried, and then I laughed, and I really just finally decided to let the coyote part of my essence out, and I kind of just went through all the emotions, even public display of like rude boy, like just how bad it was, and then like finally like because I was supposed to get to the bus stop if it was on time an hour before I left on the Amtrak bus, right? So, but what happened is I got there. So then like finally the cops, it was a crash and burn, literally like a crash, and there was smoke, and someone might have got really badly injured. And so finally the cop let us through over that, and we kind of had to drive to get around the broken smashed up car that got burned up. And then so we're going to get towards San Jose, and I'm all just, that's when I was really praying to Christ Sophia. But really, I was just kind of just, okay, now is this gonna work? Like, I'm just gonna visualize that, the great mother is gonna just come in there. I don't want to lose the money, and I just felt like I was gonna get totally drained. And so, but it was like, and so he started driving through to, man, you know what? The bus pulls up, and if it would have been a train, I would have missed it. But the bus pulls up 1 minute before the Amtrak bus had to leave, was scheduled to leave, and exactly in the Santa Cruz bus pulls up exactly behind it. And I didn't have to pay to put my bicycle in there, which I hadn't done. So I was like, wow, man, like after all that, like just complete loose extraction, and then and I was totally the worst one on the bus of like just getting drained openly, like with it, and just that Heyoka spirit in me, just acting it out, just And there it is. And then I was like, I made it on time. I made it. I'm like, ah. And then, like, a guy who says he's stuck, like many say they're stuck in Santa Cruz here, that he can't get out of Bakersfield. He raised his daughter here, and even though she's full grown, and then he got me a ride here. And I was just like, man, you know what? Like, traveling, you get some crazy misadventures, or the good adventures traveling, just so. Um, so when I hitchhiked across this epic nation, several occasions, I always met great and real essences in flesh suits, man. I've only had a few people that wanted to have sex with me, but there was a man in Somerville, South Carolina, who timidly told me that, and I said, well, I could try to play your psychologist while we drive if you want, but that's about all I can offer. And even back in those days when I was 21 or something, I was already interested in that topic. So Jesus said, basically, you can't be a great teacher in your home. Something like this. I don't remember the exact line. You can't be a great teacher in your hometown. Nobody will listen. Okay? So, or the past will taint your magnitude or efficacy. I was watching a Richard Grannon video, his latest one today, and it's about Christmas and all the psychological shit that goes with that. And it's the same thing with Christmas and Thanksgiving as it is with your old hometown. Okay, same principle, right? Like, people like your brother, your sister, your mom, your old best friend, they're never gonna hold you above whatever the stupidest shit you did. It could have nothing to do with who you are now in your mind when you're just going to live your life and doing your thing. But like, when you go back home for Christmas, or if you never leave, or if you stay or go back and move back or visit your hometown, then you see that narcissist predator that abused you or whatever. That person is never going to change till they kill themselves and take themselves in that black hole, unless they, I don't know what it's going to take, what it would take for that. But when you see them, of course, they're gonna try to dig their claws into the past, pull you down. This is why, a lot of people say gray rock, and it just makes sense. So, and if you don't have the strength, it's hard. Or if you're physically sick and it's going to make you more physically sick, then just try to forgive yourself and forget the fucking evil people, evil-minded people, no matter how close. If they're going to harm you on that level. So, you know, these possessed, or these mildly possessed. I mean, most humans are, the human condition unexamined in 2025 is some kind of archonic possession to some level, man. But these people that want to drag you back into your filthy worst thing you ever did and bring it up in the conversation, they're not somebody you should even have a conversation with. Maybe say hi to them as you ride by. None of these people who disrespect you, a lot of times people in your hometown will the past will taint your magnitude and efficacy. So your old bloodkins, friends, and coworkers, employees, even they know you as your old, little, miserable, addicted, codependent, narcissist, psychopathic, obedient, or borderline sub-self. Your sub, that part of you, if you believe in internal family system psychology, that part of you that's your mom or your dad or whoever abused you that you didn't get rid of, unless you've done the shadow work and cleared that filth out and gone through complex trauma healing, it's like, well, it's in there. So, but that's what pulls us back. So, but these people high on the scale, they're not going to look at that. So, the sub-self states of who you were back then, and if you allow it, they can and will pull you back down into their psychological hell pits. Like when a bunch of crabs are in a bucket, if you've ever gone crabbing and catch crabs, one crab is trying to escape, right? But he's trying to climb over the other ones to get out, because that's the only way he has to get out. The Archon's moving it closer and closer to try to turn it off. So as usual. Uh, so yeah, one guy's in one of these crabs is trying to escape, right? And he tries to climb up out of there and climb up and escape. Invariably, they all pull him back down, like multiple crabs pull him back down. Like if I can't get the shadow band car boot off this channel or grow it, um, um, other and otherwise in different ways, and by having different businesses and doing different things to make money with it. So it seems I proved Neil Mohan to be right in a negative sense when he said you cannot grow your channel without having, other social media or things for sale or books or, other facets to your business, and etc. So, if I don't get the car boot taken off, it proves his thing right. So I'm not doing this for the numbers or the fake. I've caught them deleting them, so I don't really take it that personally or seriously, but it's funny and tragic comedy that fits the narrative of this place. So basically, you won't grow without stacking your resources, a website, books, courses, or other social media, etc., or learn marketing or whatever. I've grown it mostly by guerrilla marketing. So yet at a snail's pace, I will still grow. DIY my cards, and unless I change or let one of these dudes be my agent that keep begging me to pay them to share it. So, but I'm not going to do that because that's to me is selling out. So anyhow, maybe I need to take Passio's course. I don't know. I'm not concerned. I'll think about it. I might sell some T-shirts that have my face on it or whatever. So sure, I learned the hard way in this capitalist place. If I had published 3D books first, etc., before I did this, I'd be making money and have the audience or whatever, because that's just how capitalism is. Just that they would allow me for more of my actual audience. Yeah, they'd let me have more of my actual audience. Yeah. Similarly, if you never leave your hometown, you can grow, but the Archon false ruler parasites are going to stack up the odds against you and try to keep you stuck in that rut of littleness so that they can feed off you, Too bad for me if I don't achieve impeccability in every sense, literally. The disease is rampant in the cage of the fake loneliness imposed essence harvest system will continue to suck me dry, just like almost everyone else who hasn't done a large amount of shadow work and inner work and self-healing, inner discernment, and clearing it out physically and mentally, spiritually, without clear, precise, impeccable discernment. The Archon's mental parasite Wetiko trapdoor cages trick you back into their cells over and over with every dogma, every fear, every overwhelm. Overwhelm is one of the most nasty chief archons I want to slay. Dogma, mutations, GMOs and mutated thoughts, cancers, lust, greed, and thus overall delusion very often under a sprayed white death cloud sky becomes normalized. And all who would not look or all who would not accept that it's a fucking horrific thing that is illegal in Tennessee and New Hampshire and needs to be made illegal everywhere and criminalized and done away with and become passe. So what have I learned from 48 years in a body in the mind L of you, of know where you are? You're in the hijacked loose jungle, baby. You're gonna die if you don't get real free. You gotta get free. Well, if you'll fit in it. You've got free will if you can figure out how to fit it into a capitalist system and capitalist schema and still make lots of money with whatever it is you want. If you can make money off it, see? Otherwise, you'll smidgen off a choice. Your smidgen of a choice is only after you kill, hunt,
Like you'll have free will after your belly's full, after you've killed or hunt or had a farm or forage or fish for your food, get your food. In codependency, you can have self efficacy and serve like pennies in the bottom of a psychic bucket. You can, do a little bit of work and think you're doing something. And this is a holographically based reality. So, how many people have that balance of effort and reward that would be in a natural, in a natural system? As I'm pretty sure in this hologram that was stolen by hell, and most of it in many regards. However, by utilizing how is it stolen? By utilizing a psyop called implied consent and unfalsifiable statements like you will obey me because I say so, and I am your creator who will burn you forever in hell if you don't obey. Even though if you obey, you're going to create a psychic hell that's going to spread like a parasite, that mental parasite that it is around the planet. And the majority of the people are going to run endless wars, or just in their minds, endless wars in their mind that we designed because I am your father. You will be allowed to write 10 notebooks full of explicit and revealing truths, hidden and self-empowering healing knowledge, and only be allowed, because you're a lucky entitled one from the brotherhood, only be allowed to share a ton of healing with a tiny fraction of your audience. Yay! Whether you try to hide your awareness in the matrix and obey outwardly, or simply rebel and try to exist in the woods, no matter how much you obey or contradict Yahweh, you're still mentally stuck until you and I are really willing to get comfortable in the unknown. And that's one of the main themes I wanted to talk about in this video, is that when we can learn to get comfortable in the unknown, this is a huge, huge stride, a huge, huge step in your awakening. So this is how traveling can be even a healing balm, as it were, psychic healing balm, as it were, for the discerning with faith in the truth. In 48 years, I've tasted the original version of this place, where we had fun, creativity, choice, bliss, freedom, community, music, or Muel, actual free will, because we collectively were so abundant. Dancing and healing, and even for a few moments and days of this flesh suit's existence, dancing, healing, and playing, and for maybe a few years, and growing spiritually, sexually, physically, mentally, emotionally, growing and learning and expanding, becoming more of our true essence through these temporary animal experiences, these carnal flesh suit experiences, stealing, torturing, hijacking, and sucking and suck seeds and circumventing, preventing, or stealing your plans. You see, in the hijacked version, seeming or escape options. If possible, the archons will prevent every measure of escape, prevent everything you wanted to do from happening. Someone on the Amtrak said, one of these guys I was talking to said, well, I keep trying to live out my dreams, but something keeps happening to block it. And I was like about to pull out a card at this point. I had to make sure they considered themselves a red pillar. But so they'll screw it all up. Something you need or want, or something the fake god imposter tyrant says, talk to the hand. You need something. It's like the image that was made by the artist in Santa Cruz. If you need something, then talk to the hand. You know. So like me, you feel timelessness is an essential aspect to access now. Do you feel that? Because I feel that you really need to have some moments of timelessness as often as you can. Well, Kronos will never allow that. If you live in an expensive place and you're not rich or whatever, you believe the lies. Talk to the invisible hand of the market that forces all of us to compete against each other, um, and controls our fate, and yet respects no one. This invisible hand with the white glove and respects no one and no thing, as from its stupid, aside from its stupid god Mammon, the god with big muscles and no brains, the god of money. No. Talk to Christ Sophia within your heart. Know this. Know that this place is a spiritual, mental, or psychically repurposed realm for a mutually exclusive reason. Like, if you don't wake up, you're just a fucking human farm animal for these psychic parasites. Are you just a food drip for the invisible vampires? If not, what is your essence? Really, what is it? In a less desirable or fancy country club prison region out of the mid L of nowhere, you have no bullshit archons to the past or faked futures. Learning to remote view, is it possible you can become comfortable as a speck of essence? This is why I think it's a really important thing to learn. If you can become comfortable as a speck of essence way out in the darkness and be fully comfortable with your true state of pure awareness right here, can you do that right here and right now? Remote viewers that are real can. Then maybe you will be ready for liberation when you leave the flesh suit from the. Maybe you'll be ready for liberation from the wheel after this round. In these 48 years, I have seen and corroborated that this place is full of a hell realm loose farm conceptual aggregate collective attempted permanent black hole of oblivion, yet also a lot of corroboration. Our slave masters think the entire snow globe and our flesh suit, our body, mind essences are their spoils of war, and their farm animals and their child hookers to do whatever they want with and drink down. Their tools to drain through labor. Children, their children to beat or proxies or wardens, and it was all mostly violently coercive, lie and theft based, as we said many times, a full-scale vampire world. But that filthy version will rapidly, like the sick Ouroboros it is, eat itself to death. Will we be in that scaly, bloody mess, or will we liberate ourselves out of nowhere? When you know unequivocally, in essence, you are a ray of Christ or divinity light, a spark of divinity, not narcissistically, but a part of this big creator in the mid L of nowhere. Know where you are, knowing for sure you are not your thoughts, your flesh, your desires, feelings, wants, or needs. That person you think you are when you're drunk or stoned. You are an individuated speck or ray of the light of an ancient, eternal, respectful being, infinitely more powerful than the vampire matrix gods. Gnosis is truth that can free us to varying levels, maybe totally here in the unknown, out of the desert of the middle of nowhere, with no crutches, with no past and no future. Here may be a place to really see beyond the false limits